Have you ever felt trapped in hardships, where every door seems closed and no solution appears in sight? Imagine a man burdened with debts, struggling to provide for his family, and seeing no way forward. Yet, in his darkest moment, he placed his trust entirely in Allah and turned to the Qur'an, reciting Surah At-Talaq with sincerity. What happened next was nothing short of a miracle. His Rizq opened from directions he never expected. Stay with me as we uncover this powerful story and the timeless lesson it holds for anyone facing trials today. 1. The man's hardship. Life had become unbearably difficult for the man. He was weighed down by debts that grew heavier with each passing day. Collectors came knocking at his door, and the pressure of unpaid loans constantly disturbed his peace of mind. His income was not enough to cover even the basic needs of his household, and every attempt to improve his situation seemed to end in disappointment. At home, the atmosphere was filled with silent worry. His children often looked to him for assurance, but he struggled to hide his anxiety. Providing food, clothing, and stability for them felt like an impossible task. Nights were sleepless, as thoughts of how to survive tomorrow consumed his mind. Despite all efforts, seeking work, asking for help, and tightening every expense, no solution appeared. He stood at a point where human means seemed to fail completely, and only a higher power could change his condition. 2. Unshaken faith. In the face of overwhelming hardship, the man's heart did not break under despair. He understood that trials are part of life and that relief only comes from Allah. Instead of surrendering to hopelessness, he chose to anchor himself in faith. Each difficulty reminded him that reliance on people has limits, but reliance on Allah is limitless. His prayers became longer, and his supplications more sincere. Even when no one answered his calls for help, he turned to the one who never turns away his servant. He held firm to the belief that every test carries within it a hidden mercy, and that patience is the key to unlocking it. Rather than questioning why he was being tested, he reminded himself that Allah's wisdom surpasses human understanding. This inner conviction gave him strength, calming his heart and preparing him to seek divine guidance in ways he had never done before. 3. Turning to Qur'an. At the height of his struggle, the man realized that true guidance lies within the words of Allah. He opened the Qur'an, not as a routine act, but with a heart searching for light in the darkness of his situation. Each verse he recited brought comfort, as if it was directly speaking to his pain and uncertainty. Among the chapters he turned to was Surah At-Talaq. He read it slowly, reflecting on its meaning, absorbing every word with humility. The verses reminded him that those who remain conscious of Allah will never be left abandoned. The Quran was no longer just recitation for him. It became a living message, a source of direction that breathed hope back into his weary soul. In that moment, the Quran was not only a book to be read, but a rope to hold onto firmly, guiding him toward solutions beyond human effort. 4. Allah's promise in Surah At-Talaq. As he recited Surah At-Talaq, one particular passage struck deeply within his heart. Allah's words declare that whoever develops taqwa, true awareness and fear of Him, will always find a way out of hardship. The verse continues with a promise that sustenance will arrive from directions the person could never have imagined. These lines were not just poetry to him, they were a direct assurance from the Creator, a contract of hope between servant and Lord. The man pondered how extraordinary it was that Allah links relief and provision to taqwa. It meant that his deliverance was not tied to wealth, influence, or worldly strategies, but to his sincerity before Allah. This realization filled him with tranquility. The promise carried certainty, reminding him that the Quran is timeless guidance, speaking to anyone who faces difficulty, assuring them that Allah's help is closer than they think. 5. Practical example of faith. The man did not stop at simply reading the verse, he allowed it to shape his daily actions. With every sunrise, he recited the passage with a heart full of conviction, believing that Allah's promise was real and would manifest at the right time. His trust translated into calmness, and that calmness guided the way he faced life's challenges. Instead of complaining about his situation, he focused on increasing his remembrance of Allah. Each repetition of the verse became a reminder to stay patient, to guard his character, and to continue striving honestly in whatever opportunities came his way. His family noticed the change too. His words carried reassurance instead of despair. This consistent practice turned his faith into a living example. By aligning his tongue, heart, and actions with the Quran's message, he demonstrated how reliance on Allah transforms a believer's state long before external changes arrive. 6. Divine opening. In time, the unseen support of Allah began to unfold in ways the man could never have planned. Small opportunities appeared first, an acquaintance unexpectedly offering him temporary work, a neighbor extending kindness without being asked. What seemed like minor blessings gradually grew into doors of sustenance opening one after another. The offers came from places he had never sought before, and the income that followed was more than sufficient to ease his pressing worries. His debts started to shrink, and his home slowly felt the relief of financial stability. These changes were not coincidences, they carried the unmistakable mark of divine arrangement. He recognized that the shift was far greater than mere material gain. It was Allah showing that His promises are true, that when a believer turns fully to Him, solutions descend from the unseen, breaking barriers that once appeared impossible. 7. Barakah and blessings. As the man's situation improved, he noticed that his provisions carried a quality far beyond numbers. What once seemed insufficient now stretched with ease, bringing comfort and stability to his household. Food lasted longer, money covered more needs, and a sense of contentment settled within the family. This was barakah, the hidden increase that Allah places in what He provides. His home, once filled with silent worry, now echoed with gratitude. The children felt more secure, and his wife expressed relief that their days of constant struggle were turning into days of peace. Along with financial ease, harmony and love grew stronger between them. The blessings were not limited to material gain. He found renewed energy in his worship, more sweetness in his prayers, and greater hope for the future. The experience taught him that true prosperity lies not only in wealth but in the presence of Allah's barakah. 8. Lesson for viewers. From his journey, one clear message emerges for anyone facing difficulties. Rizq is not locked by circumstances but unlocked through reliance on Allah. The man's story is a reminder that worldly struggles may appear overwhelming, yet divine help arrives when faith and patience are kept alive. Each believer is invited to see trials not as barriers, but as doors leading closer to Allah's mercy. Viewers can reflect on how the Qur'an offers timeless solutions. Surah At-Talaq, in particular, emphasizes that provision flows from unexpected paths for those who remain conscious of Allah. This lesson encourages us to trust the unseen and avoid despair, even when every effort seems fruitless. The miracle in his life was not only financial relief, but the strengthening of faith that came with it. For anyone listening, the key takeaway is simple: put your trust in Allah, and He will never abandon you. This story reminds us that when we trust Allah and hold firmly to His words, He provides in ways beyond imagination. Rizq, barakah, and relief are never far from the believer who relies on Him completely. If you found this reminder beneficial, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Profound Deen for more uplifting content. May Allah bless your sustenance and fill your life with ease. Comment, Ameen, below as your heartfelt prayer.